Hello, welcome to Matrix Live. This is episode 17 of season 3. The date today is the 15th of March 2019. My name's Ben. You'll have seen me on Matrix as Ben This is my newly adopted name for the Matrix ecosystem. And I'm here today with Ryan.
Hello.
Yeah, welcome. Ryan's a developer in Matrix. We're going to chat today with him about what he's been doing, what he's done in the past, and what he's working on right now, and how he feels about Matrix, which I assume is positive.
Hopefully so. Yeah.
Haven't proven that out yet, but I think we can assume it will be fairly positive.
Yeah.
All right. So who are you? What do you do for Matrix?
Right. So like I said, my name's Ryan. I'm on the Matrix rooms. That's my full name, J. Ryan Stinnett. I work as part of the Riot team on the Riot web app. Just generally trying to add more features, make it an easy experience for everyone to use.
And you were around for the 1.0 release, right? Yeah.
Right. That's right. Which was a pretty exciting experience actually to be a part of that, especially for something that's gone on for so long. It was a little ironic because I just joined right at the end, and so we're like building on all these years of people's work, and I'm like, oh, okay, well,
standing on the shoulders of giants.
Right, all right. It's fun to be there for the big moment, I guess, at least. But I think working on Riot is a pretty interesting area of the ecosystem, especially because like giving people tools like Riot and other things to improve how they communicate is great, but you also need to ensure it actually has a great experience, or else people just won't be interested. And so it really does matter to put the time into having a good experience. And I mean, there's many areas of Riot where there's still, admittedly, a ways to go, but
it's a different beast now, though. I mean, if we look at the last 6 months,
sure.
the onboarding is so much better, and just the design itself.
Right. Yeah. There's been a lot of improvement, and hopefully that's visible to people in the community as well. That as the team has grown, we've been able to work more quickly and really add a lot more.
I think it has been. I mean, the response from the community with the release of 1.0 was almost suspiciously positive. Normally, when you make a change that big, you'd expect to see some people hate it, some people love it. But
I think if we had left out the dark theme,
right.
people may have been slightly enraged.
Dark theme was the #1 requested item of any kind before message sending.
Yes, people love their themes, so yeah, I think it's important that we got that one in.
Yeah, I mean, I use it essentially exclusively. Yeah. I mean, I use it for everything. I don't know. It's funny how like OS X this last year or so introduced a dark theme.
Right.
It seems like it's the default, or it should be. It surprises me that it wasn't that way.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting to watch. All of the apps start to respond, because like third-party apps slowly added their own dark theme variants to kind of coexist, especially with Apple adding it to the operating system. And it's interesting to see how even more complex apps like browsers and things kind of take on that challenge. And what elements do they colorize? And things.
It can be tough, especially where there's like Riot, where there's user content.
Yeah, right. Like, do you leave the content to be whatever color it is? Let it be light on a dark background?
You've got to frame it, and
having choices.
Yeah. People do make assumptions about how they how they introduce their UGC.
And I guess to match the mobile apps, hopefully soon we'll also be able to add there's a black theme in the mobile apps, which hopefully we can also bring that to the web.
Yeah, and of course Riot, Riot's going to get a whole new version soon with Riot X.
Right, on Android.
Sorry. So yeah, I mean that'll come with all the same themes.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so I'm just going to look at my list of questions for you. So where have you been? What have you done? What did you do before you met us?
Right. I guess, well, it's interesting. I mean, I had been following Matrix actually for a while. I mean, I think for a number of years I just kind of was watching the project from afar, but maybe we'll come back to that part. I guess before I got involved very recently with working on Riot and really joining the project, I was working at Mozilla on Firefox. So I was there. A related t-shirt. I was working there for about 5 years on the developer tools team, so at least that's where I spent the bulk of my time was on developer tools working on the inspector debugger and other tools that people use to build sites.
So this is the developer tools inside Firefox. It's not
Right.
the developer tools used to build Firefox. It's
right. No. It's the tools people that web developers use to inspect their own sites in Firefox. And yeah, I mean it was quite a challenging experience because all of the browsers are trying to, at least these days, in recent times, all the browsers are really trying to differentiate their tools and attract developer mindshare using those tools. And it's actually quite a competitive area with everyone trying to think of the latest thing that will help.
Because Firefox was the first by far with Firebug.
Yeah, it's an interesting history that goes back quite a while. Yeah, I believe Firebug was kind of like the first of its kind when it was originally released a long time ago, and it brought a lot of interesting things that people hadn't seen before to debugging, and at least on the web, and it was quite a powerful tool. And then some time kind of passed, and at least Mozilla hadn't put much energy into tools beyond that. I mean, Firebug was kind of a project led by a small group of people, but at the time, Mozilla didn't really see it as something to invest in. They were just sort of like, well, all right, here's this great tool, but it was
left as a plugin.
Right, it was an add-on. It was,
right,
it was just something you would download and install, just like any other browser extension. It didn't really, Mozilla didn't see it as like a product feature to sort of invest in as part of Firefox at the time. But then I think around the same time of Chrome appearing on the scene, they spent. They really tried to kind of prioritize the developer tool experience alongside just having the browser at all, and really saw that as a vector to sort of attract people towards Chrome. And I think that made the other browsers also start to sort of realize, they should consider this a true product feature of the browser.
I mean, Chrome were a real driver in their day. It gave everybody a real kick in the pants.
Yes, it did. I mean, lots of just how browsers are planned and released and all sorts of things kind of were shaken up back in that era when Chrome first appeared, largely due to them. I mean, there's many innovations that all the browsers have now taken on that were originally pioneered by the Chrome team. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really healthy ecosystem right now. Going back to Firefox myself, after being away from it for a couple of years, I'm really impressed with where it's at. Containers are fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of privacy-focused advantages that I think Firefox is kind of well placed to offer that the other browsers are not necessarily as incentivized, or maybe don't work as well with the business model of their parent company. But it's also at the same time a bit of a tricky time, I think, for Mozilla, because they are. It is a bit tough for them to sort of figure out, since they're so dependent on the ad revenue to sort of fund their business, which largely comes from the same companies they're competing with. It's a bit awkward, and it's just a bit tricky for them. They're trying to find other revenue sources that would let them sort of have even more freedom to really go for protecting the user and really defending them and acting truly as their agent on the web. Web browsers are called user agents in specifications, and Firefox would really like to do more of really doing what the user wants, being their true agent. And I think if Mozilla was able to kind of get beyond the search revenue funding that largely empowers the company, they would have more freedom to do that.
Yeah, I mean, their marketing and their sort of approach to the user base definitely revolves a lot around privacy and the image of self-control,
right,
and all these topics that we have at the core of Matrix as well.
Right.
So it's interesting that for them the product is privacy, and they enable that through things like Firefox. Yeah, and actually, sorry for springing this on you, but it only just occurred to me that I don't know if you'll even know, but the Thunderbird team was recently hugely expanded. They've gone from 2 to 8 developers, I heard, and they're thinking about Matrix as a core messaging.
Right.
type
Okay.
in
I
there.
think I've heard snippets of
All right, yeah.
these different threads that you're mentioning, but yeah.
It's exciting if that's the case. I haven't heard a lot more detail.
Yeah. Thunderbird is especially something that's been in a particularly kind of weird space throughout the ages. I mean, I think that's another one that Mozilla hasn't exactly known what to do with, I think, for a while.
Yeah. But also Google shook everything up in the PIM area, and so this is also an area, not just browsers, where it's really hard to compete with the big names.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that sort of leads into some just general topics about decentralization and
which is why
why that matters. I mean, I think for a lot of people, I think it can be hard to sort of grasp at first, like why do I care about decentralization? Why does that matter? Especially because for most people today, I mean, most of the services they interact with are all centralized services run by a single company. Like everything that most people interact with, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of these services are all centralized, and so it can be a bit hard to understand, but it's actually kind of ironic to see that happen because when the internet was originally started, nearly all the services that ran on it were decentralized in some way. I mean, like email is at least one that is still around that people are all probably familiar with and runs in a decentralized fashion with different domains running different servers. Other older things that people don't talk about very much anymore, like Usenet and things like this, were all also decentralized. So yeah, I mean, I guess email is probably the one that's easiest for people to understand and have experience with. But it's interesting to see how things have centralized over time, and there's. I guess it can be a bit hard for people to sort of get the message across to sort of the average person about why they might care about decentralization, but I think if you can kind of try to explain it in terms of, like this is the information that you're creating and putting out onto the internet is your own. You have some ownership right over that, and you shouldn't just give it to these companies for free. I mean, it's
it's a hard thing to sometimes to explain to people because they'll say, well, I've already got a messaging platform and and it's WhatsApp or it's FaceTime or it's these things. What should I how can we convey that to people? And the idea of ownership is something really important.
Yeah, and I think the angle of giving people back control, I mean, is something that hopefully resonates at least with some segments of the world, and distributed systems like Matrix. Distributed systems like Matrix will let you get some of that control by the different ways that anyone can kind of add to the ecosystem, right? Whether it's building your own client or your own bots or your own services that can plug into that system, which is certainly not something you could do with any centralized service.
Certainly not, but I mean, if you're not a developer,
right?
It's all very well. Oh, you can use Markdown, you can do this, you can have your own database storage. Well, a lot of people aren't going to do that anyway.
Yep.
So it's a hard sell at times.
Yep.
To the individuals.
I mean, some of that you could simplify by having kind of like a marketplace or a little store if it were easy to install these things. I mean, today it is still a bit developer oriented, but if it were easy to sort of just plug and play, like a bot or whatever, the same way that that it can be in other experiences like Slack and all the bots that are available.
I mean, Slack's UX is it's a real standard that we should be thinking about.
Right, and there's nothing that should prevent us from getting there if we want to.
No. I mean, it's just a case of UX, and it comes back to exactly what you said at the beginning, which is UX is often not given the credit it needs in these kinds of geek ecosystems.
Right.
And hopefully Riot is a really powerful counterpoint to that, because the new version really is UX centric, and Matrix helps this by separating some of the server concerns from the UI.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's just really interesting to see how people will kind of customize entire clients for different needs. Like whether there's the mobile and web clients we have with Riot, or other third-party clients that different people have made. I mean,
Yeah.
people take a different approach to even like core layout components, like how should messages be displayed, and different people have their preferences, and it's probably impossible for one of them to make everyone happy. So I mean, just having that freedom and the ability to choose, I think is great. And yeah, I think if we do focus on UX throughout the ecosystem, in Riot but also the other apps that people build, I think that will be a much better way to kind of get a larger set of people involved and really see the value of it.
Yeah.
Because when you just have some kind of clunky thing
Yeah.
that may be functional, I mean that's fine.
Yeah.
But
this is the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the difference between the very early stage of the project and where we're getting to now.
Yeah.
Which is, we need to be looking beyond people who've tolerated questionable IRC interfaces for the last
Right.
20 years.
Right. Yeah.
And they have modern and different ideas about how a chat system should work. And
Right.
yeah, Matrix has a great opportunity to take advantage of that, and Riot exemplifies that. Let me very quickly. So here's my cynical question for you. Why should we be so optimistic about decentralization? Aren't we at a huge risk where, all we've just said, we're so optimistic about it, we can't get people off Facebook. All these scandals, they're out half the week and people still flock to WhatsApp because it's where their friends are. Why should we be so optimistic?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it is. I don't. It's definitely not going to just happen, right? Like I think it's not something like we could just.
It's not guaranteed at all.
Code away and
Yeah.
magically there'll be success. I mean, there's definitely going to be a lot of just marketing involved and trying to get lots of user feedback and understanding what people really need. If we all just hid away in a cave, there's no way it would work. But I think if we really can understand what people need and want in the way that they communicate, and how can we deliver something new with Riot and through the distributed technology that again gives people more control. I mean, it's hard. It's actually hard for any of these services when they first start. Like whenever you have to do anything to sort of rebuild your graph of friends and then convert them to use a thing. I mean, I assume many of us have the problem where I have 15 communication things installed on my phone because different sets of people have all sort of
I mean, it's the classic XKCD
right. They've all sort of picked a different one, and so different sets of people I use different ones for. But at least at a technology level with Matrix, I mean, there's at least the possibility to at least be bridging all those services together. So maybe you wouldn't even necessarily natively use Matrix if you didn't want to, but it would at least offer you the ability to connect those different ones together. Like maybe you prefer using WhatsApp or something, but then you have these other people over here that are using Telegram or whatever, and you'd prefer to use one experience to talk to all those people. Well, I mean, Matrix as a technology platform is one way that you could do that through the bridges. So, people don't even need to use a native Matrix client to still be getting value out of it, which is, I mean, that's definitely a unique thing that doesn't exist on any of the other platforms.
Yeah, I mean, you could be running a Matrix server in the background and have everybody at either end of the process using their own non-Matrix clients and bridge from there, and still get some of the benefits from Matrix because you'd still be storing the data in a centralized way on your own server.
Yeah, but like you said, I mean, it's not just going to happen, right? I think we should be proud of the work that we've done so far, but there's still a lot to do, and it's you have really, I mean, to get more people interested, you really have to kind of convince those people one by one. It's not something that's probably going to just naturally take off to wild success on its own.
We have to keep pushing. We have to keep reminding people that it's a good idea. I do feel like there's a sort of ground swell. There's a very small uptick coming naturally as people start to revolt against
Right.
centralization.
Yeah,
and Matrix is there for
I
them.
think it is slowly. I mean, it's taking a while, but it is slowly becoming a bit more mainstream. I think people are starting to understand a bit more, especially with all of the like constant data breach announcements that are like every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Some new company has released all of your passwords and
Yeah,
credit card
and
information.
I don't think that there's disinterest per se.
Yeah.
It's just that people don't know how to respond to that.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
if a huge company, Sony or somebody, has lost all this data,
Yeah.
there's a feeling of helplessness, I think,
Yeah.
for the person on the street. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's think about decentralization. So decentralization, you've been talking about this for quite a long time. You know, before you started working with Matrix.org. Are there any other projects or are there any other topics that we should be thinking about?
Well, I mean, I guess an interesting one that kind of connects both of Mozilla and Matrix is there was this libdweb project that Mozilla, I guess, started to allow add-ons in Firefox to do like distributed networking natively in the browser. So like you could potentially like it was like a low-level API that opens up the networking facilities you would need to be doing distributed servers or clients or whatever in the browser. So that would.
Wow. So could we have built a Matrix client and used it on top of that?
Yeah. So
Wow.
you could be putting distributed features in that. Like I think people have used that to put things like IPFS into the browser as a way to like be able to just natively load documents from IPFS as opposed to having some kind of like third-party proxy running aside. You can just do it.
So is this still available now?
I think it is still available. It's just that it's like, you know, like a testing feature, an experimental thing that you'd have to like flip some flags and some other voodoo like that. But
I feel like our community is still at a stage where that's an acceptable thing to be doing. Well, I mean, that sounds like a great project. I wonder why we're not thinking about like building. I'm sure somebody will do this by the time that I've posted this. Making a client that sits right inside Firefox as an add-on.
That'd be really cool to see. I'm actually I don't know. You may know more. I think you have a stronger connection with what the community and what's out there. So I'm quite curious what people do with Matrix that's not purely just communication, right? Like using it because it is really just more of a distributed data storage system.
So we have a few people doing interesting things. I mean, probably the second most common thing I would say is logging. So essentially alerting. But maybe noisy alerting, and then you just have your room with all your things like Grafana channels. So I think that's a pretty common use case. But there's definitely other options too.
Have people used it as like an actual like storage system in any way? I don't know, like.
So Opsdroid, things like this, they have the storage like mode, which basically just uses room state as its backend storage. But I'm sure there are other things. We'll find examples to put in the comments. And we'll put links to this. What was it called? This Firefox feature?
I think it's called like libdweb.
Libdweb. Okay.
Something like this.
All right. Got to put a link to that because that sounds like just the kind of thing that we should be on top of. Cool. Any other topics you wanted to bring up?
No, I mean, I don't know. Can't think of anything. But
no. Well, you'll be here anyway. I just want to say welcome. Thanks for joining. You've actually been here for a few months now, right?
Yes, that's right. Anyway, after a slow kind of move over to London.
Yeah, you chose a great time to come to the UK. From America. Brilliant.
Yes.
It's not our strongest year on record, but you're welcome here anyway. I guess America the same.
It's a bit wild everywhere you go these days.
The decline of the West.
Yeah.
All right, Matrix Live. Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you.
Give us comments. Bye.
See ya.